These offset beam characteristic forming technologies allow you to see the whole battlefield all in the same time, but also allow you to target, acquire, and cycle through those targets at will. This technology has been around for a long, long time. It's not new. It's new that it's coming to a streetlight near you. Now, one of the interesting aspects of all microwave radiation emitters, they are uninsurable for harm to a human. So it's uninsurable. The reason for that is because the science, the technicalities and the science of it prove, without any shadow of a doubt, it does bodily harm. Now, bodily harm, any device that causes bodily harm is a weapon. I came to this because I realized that this technological push was a significant threat. It was untested, unregulated, uninsurable, but it was untested for a reason, for safety. It would fail. This is a crime against humanity. These criminals have orchestrated this fabricated nonsense about the dangers of this technology. Telecoms companies, if everybody will know, multi-billion-pound businesses, and they have to try and protect their corner. And most certainly they're going to try and protect their shareholders because this technology is uninsurable. Consequently, this then lands with the shareholder. In fact, there's a case currently going on in the USA, class action against Apple and Samsung, where the smartphones, when they weren't being used in people's pockets, were emitting 300% over the FCC standard. This isn't a guideline, this is a standard, that is the law. And what happens if they know there's a test going to be carried out, then what they can do, they can turn down the power output. I spoke to a technologist who works for one of the big telecoms companies, and what he said to me, he said, you must get this stopped.
As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back to Finance and Liberty and Reluctant Preppers. We have a first-time guest today to discuss an important and serious topic. Mark Steele is a weapons system expert, and he's also an expert on the health hazards of 5G communication systems. Mark's joining us this first time from Newcastle, England on this Tuesday, January 28th, 2020. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for getting the information out. Like as I say to a number of the, if people aren't covering 5G, then they're part of the cover-up, and we'll see that in the mainstream media quite a bit. There's a massive cover-up in relation to 5G. What they all talk about is the security risk. It is a massive security risk, in fact, an existential threat to all countries. However, the greater threat is the fact that 5G is actually a weapons system. Now, a lot of people will find difficulty when I say those words. Unfortunately, it's correct. 5G was developed as a weapon. It's a battlefield interrogation weapons system and a weapons deployment. And what I mean by that, I'll try and explain that to people in, let's say, a layperson's terms. 5G antenna are the focus on a microwave radiation in a similar way to light radiation, so a laser. How you focus light radiation, you can focus in a very, very similar way of microwave radiation. There's a number of ways to do that, and it depends on the antenna design. But that's what allows you to collimate, to cohere microwave radiation into a beam wave. And that's where it becomes extremely dangerous, far more dangerous than a laser, because you can travel through concrete brickwork in the sub-gigahertz range. And the reason why the world's military use the sub-gigahertz to 10 gigahertz for these type of weapon systems. Now, we keep hearing the mainstream media talk about millimeter waves. Microwave radiation doesn't travel very well in the millimeter waves, so I'm going to tell you the weapon systems operate in the sub-gig to the 10 gigahertz. And that's the reason for all of the deployments of the antennas, the 5G antennas that we see today, are operating in the sub-gigahertz. That's well recognized. The millimeter waveform is another smoke screen by the industry, because obviously they know they don't travel very well. But if you look at the transmitters that are being situated in street lights, in just about every single piece of equipment, smart meters, etc., all operating in a sub-gig. And the reason for that, they have large footprints, so they can actually emit the radiation over large distances in the built-up urban environment. That's the reason for them. And you keep seeing this, we've got to have tens of thousands of these transmitters next to people's homes because they're in the millimeter waves. That is a crock. All the equipment that we've seen to date is sub-gigahertz, so not necessary to have them anywhere near a person's home. There's transmitters in a sub-gig can travel as far as the horizon without any problem. I mean, some of the transmitters in the built-up urban environment, 15 to 20 kilometers, they can look through buildings.
While some 5G signals go only blocks, T-Mobile 5G goes miles. Beyond the big cities, to the small towns, to the people.
And the reason for that is they were developed as radar, urban radar and battlefield radar. Very, very good for interrogating the battlefield. If anybody's played on any of those tank games where you actually cycle through the weapon sight to see your target, these offset beam characteristic forming technologies allow you to see the whole battlefield all in the same time, but also allow you to target acquire and cycle through those targets at will. This technology has been around for a long, long time. It's not new. It's new that it's coming to a streetlight near you. Now, one of the interesting aspects of all microwave radiation emitters, they are uninsurable for harm to a human. So it's uninsurable. The reason for that is because the science, the technicalities and the science of it prove, without any shadow of a doubt, it does bodily harm. Now, bodily harm, any device that causes bodily harm is a weapon. See, if you give me a piece of, a bit of 2x2 timber, I'll see a club. You give it to a joiner, he'll see something you fit on possibly a chair leg or other. Well, unfortunately, for the people that are deploying 5G, they see a telecommunications system. What I see is a weapon. And if you look at the capacity of the equipment, so the capacity in smart meters, the capacity on these streetlight systems, where we've got banks of capacitors, 450 volts. If I was to show you a scanner, I can use a handheld 12-volt scanner to scan into your home with ease. I can see you behind your wall, and I can see you. I can listen to you. I can see you, and I can actually look straight away through a building with ease with a 12-volt scanner. So you've got to ask yourself the question, why are we having millions of these transmitters operating in the sub-gigahertz, but operating at very, very high capacity capability levels, smart meters, etc.? Why the capacity? They don't need it. Explain that quite simply. Your mobile phone, which has quite a significant reach, obviously in a good area, you can have up to 40 kilometers. If you're out the countryside to a transmitter, it operates with a 3.5-volt battery. And that's the amount of energy that can be delivered to the antenna. So why do we see these antennas in street lighting systems that can deliver, 3,300 watt switching gear, massive supercapacitors and supercapacitance in those antenna blocks? It is unnecessary unless it is, as I've stated, from a technical and scientific perspective, this is a weapons systems deployment. Nothing more, nothing less. The masquerade of a telecommunications system, that's all it is. It's a masquerade. It's masquerading the fact that it's actually a weapon. The recent people dropping down dead in China, I've got no doubt that 5G is playing its part. This is one of the test beds for 5G, Wuhan province. The radiation from the 5G beam forming characteristics reduce your they're immune suppressant, so they reduce your immune system, and you can actually use them to target people and kill them. However, in this instance, if I was to put any virus or any sort of illness in an area and I suppress the population's immune system, then what's going to happen? They're going to die. So the vast majority of people there are at significant risk from this technology. And I'm absolutely positive, because of the capacity of this equipment to do bodily harm, it is, as a matter of fact, nothing more than a weapons system and a weapons deployment. The US government, as we know, are up in arms about the fact that the Chinese want to be involved in this weapons deployment across the US. I wouldn't be happy about anybody deploying any weapons system. It doesn't matter who's the manufacturer. I'm not really concerned whether it's Chinese, US, European or other. This is a weapons systems deployment, like I said, and is only masquerading as a telecommunications system.
You've given us a chilling overview there of some of the main concerns you have that are why you're a vigilante for getting the word out and the spreading the awareness of this with people. Can you give us a very brief understanding of your background? How does a person get in the position that you have been to be aware of this and to have this information?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a patriot, right? I'm a patriot to mankind, right? And God put me in gated for a reason. Not only that, I've got a suite of patents, intellectual property. I'm an inventor. I worked on a number of these weapon systems, and I worked at a secret weapons facility. I can't tell you about that because it's covered under the Official Secrets Act. So I can't tell you about that. What I most certainly can tell you about, I've seen this equipment at play. All right, I was involved in a number of different projects, torpedo guidance systems, and I started inventing things to mitigate some of these weapon systems on the battlefield. So I've got a number of optical waveguides, basically they're weapon sight systems, so I can see into the battlefield without actually bearing either the soldier or the pilot's eye. So I've got pilot head-up display system developments that I was involved with. The reason for those pilot helmets, where they're covered in, where they've got a head-up display system built in, is so that they can travel into a battle space using armed missiles, that's anti-radiation missiles, armed. A lot of people have heard of armed missiles to take out the enemy's radiation weaponry so that troops can then enter that battle space. Prior to the taking out of that particular sophisticated weaponry, you would not be able to deploy troops because they would be decimated and on the battle space. So you've got to take them out first. And I was involved with the development of technologies so that pilots can, not safely, but can travel into those spaces a little bit more safely than what they could do if they didn't have a blast screen and a weapon sight system built into the helmet. So I know the weapons only too well. That's how I know what they operate at, and also the existential threat that they pose to all life on the planet. Biology doesn't fit well with microwave radiation. The pulse modulation characteristics of it and the beam forming of it, that's the major difference between 4G, your 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4G are all detrimental to life. However, if I've got a 4G transmitter, it irradiates in all directions. So the further I get away from that transmitter, the radiation levels drop off significantly. It's called inverse square law.
Right.
The 5G transmitter is completely different. So I've got beamform characteristics from the antenna, and what it does, that focuses the radiation. But what I do, I sweep the environment with this beamforming capability. So I've got this point source, which I can sweep a battlefield, I can target an individual, I can take down an army. I mean, that's how dangerous this equipment is. And this has been installed in a street light, in street furniture by local authorities, including the LEDs. The LEDs are toxic to life, are biologically toxic. The 450 nanometers kills insects, pollinators. So you'll see a collapse in pollinators and insects with these LEDs. It's all part of the spectral dominance of the electromagnetic radiation frequencies so that they can damage everything at all different, with using all different parts of the spectrum. And that's part of 5G. LED streetlight fitments are part of 5G. They're not a streetlight, it's a weapon system. You can tell that because if they don't have a diffuser, see these lights behind me, they're fluorescent lights in the ceiling. they're built into what's called a diffuser. So the reflection, the light hits the reflectors, reflects back down into the building. So I do not get what's called a point source, a light point source from that light, because that would be toxic and what caused significant amount of sick building syndrome, where office workers were getting sick for no particular reason, especially in the public sector. They're being built into a diffuser to mitigate that risk. All optical radiation's a risk. But if you look at these new LED light fitments, there's no diffuser. It's significantly more dangerous than these fluorescent lamps because it is spectrally imbalanced. There's a lot of blue light, 450, 460 nanometers frequency emitted from LEDs, and they are absolutely toxic to biological life. The fact they don't have a diffuser tells me they were developed to cause bodily harm. Because obviously it's quite easy to put a light into a diffuser. So why would governments and councils around the world at pace, I mean, we're talking about New Zealand, China, the United Kingdom, all of Europe, we've got this rush to deploy LED street lighting that is toxic to life. AMA, American Medical Association, did a fantastic report in 2016 to show how toxic these shorter wavelength light frequencies are to life. So it's not as if, I'm not making this up. There's ANSI's, another French health authority, they're the main health authority in France, have warned of the dangers of LED street lighting. Public Health England have also warned of how these LEDs cause retina cell death that are toxic to your eyesight, so they will blind people. Just as a matter of fact, this is uncontested scientific documentary evidence, by the way. This isn't me making it up. I'm not some conspiracy theorist. I came to this because I realized that this technological push was a significant threat. It was untested, unregulated, uninsurable, but it was untested for a reason, for safety. It would fail. That's just as a matter of fact. The reason why the telecoms industries haven't tested or researched into 5G, even though they're now deploying it across our countries, is because it would have failed. That's just as a matter of fact. The culmination of the signals breached the guidelines, they breached the FCC standards. This is an illegal, unlawful attack on our countries from this technology.
You mentioned some official publications that bear out the health dangers of some of these technologies. One of our viewers sent a link to an official publication that seems to claim that 5G is safe, and I wonder if you can talk to us about that. This is from the Institute of Engineering and Technology, IET, and the name of the document is Allaying Health Concerns Regarding 5G and Exposure to Radio Waves. And it goes on and talks about why this has all been overplayed, and why the most common frequencies will be these lower frequencies that have less concern, and they'll only use this 26 gigahertz waves in places where they need very high capacity. It'll be very rare, like 3% of the UK land area will be subject to that sort of thing. This official document and others like it, do you think that there's factual errors in here, or is it just partially telling the truth so that it allays people's concerns inappropriately?
It's inappropriate. It's a serious concern. What I'd like to know is find out who these characters are, because number one, they don't understand what 5G is. That's a matter of fact. 5G was developed as a battlefield interrogation system. It's beamforming. Like I said before, it's a culmination of microwave radiation energy in air. So that energy concentration in a beamforming wave is toxic. It's absolutely toxic. All the science, the NTP, National Toxicology Program, studied $24 million, 10 years in the making, $24 million, the most expensive bit of research done by government scientists in America, showed that microwave radiation was carcinogenic. Also, it causes DNA damage. It's carcinogenic, where the rats in the study developed heart cancers, brain cancers. This cannot be disputed. The 10-year Ramsini Institute study also supports that. So we're talking about two of the largest studies ever carried out in a recent Israeli military study where military servicemen have been exposed to beamforming radiation on the battlefield and developing cancers in their 20s and 30s, where they're now asking that the IARC reclassify microwave radiation as a class 1 cancer-causing radiation. So any criminal, and I'll call them a criminal, whoever would write anything like that in any document or actually acting illegally, they're covering up, they're part of the cover-up of a genocide against the people, because the science does not support that view at all. There are tens of thousands of papers that show that non-thermal impact from microwave radiation is deleterious to DNA, damages people, makes people anxious, causes depression, suicide increases. We actually have, since the deployment, Gateshead Council deployed this illegal technology in Gateshead. And over the period of 2014 to 2016, we had a 23% increase in stroke. That was just up to 2016. And since then, I've got no doubt that those numbers have increased significantly. We also had significant increases in cancer deaths, heart attack. This technology will harm. It's been shown to be harm. However, 5G is actually a weapon. Anybody that says otherwise, like I said, don't understand the technology, don't know who these people are, but they're criminals for anybody, and especially if they're technical experts, because what they're not doing is looking into the technology or the biological effects, the well-proven biological effects, its non-thermal impact. The ICNIRP guidelines only state that you can be exposed to a thermal impact for no more than 6 minutes. However, we've got technologies that are being deployed that are going to emit radiation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at the thermal impact. And one of the things that they're not looking at, the ICNIRP guidelines allow for an emission at 60 electron volts. I can actually set fire to wire wool with a 9-volt battery. I'd explain this to anybody. Go and get some nice fine wire wool, stick a 9-volt battery into it and see what it does to the wire wool. Now, most people, your bloods carry a lot of iron there. So that impact, these radiation signals are traveling through the body. They have been shown in all the scientific studies to deleterious to blood. That's just as a matter of fact. So if I was to fit within the guideline, this is ICNIRP guideline, that would be 60 electron volts. Billions of these transmitters emitting 60 electron volts. Now, what I'm going to say, and a lot of people don't know this, you can charge air, positively charged air, at 30 or thereabouts, depending on the constituency, air, obviously the temperature, all helps. If it's a hot day, it reduces that amount of energy that's required to make the air toxic, and that will gas you. That will gas the air to make it noxious, so that you breathe it in, very, very noxious to you. And in fact, at 60 gigahertz, that frequency attenuates in the oxygen molecule, and I can break the oxygen molecule, and to dissociate the oxygen molecule, you get oxygen atoms, I should say, recombine with oxygen molecules, and you end up with O3. O3 will kill all biological life at 50 parts per million. I don't even have to break it to make it noxious, and I can break it at levels well below the ICNIRP guideline. This is a crime against humanity. These criminals have orchestrated this fabricated nonsense about the dangers of this technology. Telecoms companies, if everybody will know, multi-billion-pound businesses, and they have to try and protect their corner. And most certainly they're going to try and protect their shareholders, because this technology is uninsurable. Consequently, this then lands with the shareholder. In fact, there's a case currently going on in the USA, class action against Apple and Samsung, where the smartphones, when they weren't being used in people's pockets, were emitting 300% over the FCC standard. This isn't a guideline, this is a standard, that is the law. The FCC state I can expose a body to no more than 1.6 watts per kilo that's for 6 minutes maximum. You've got your smartphone in your pocket that's breaching that because it's 300%. As being shown, I think it was the Chicago Tribune, one of the large papers have had this research carried out. It's a class action going on in the USA. When it's on, when you're using it, 500% more than the FCC standards. Now, I'm actually a product developer. I've been developing products that fit within standards for a number of years. It is impossible to build. You build to the standard. You cannot build outside of the standard. So how have these pieces of equipment come to be marketed and sold across the world? Billions of devices that all emit or have been shown to emit in this research to emit over these standards. That is very nefarious, extremely worrisome that a technology. So where's the FCC? Where's the federal authorities? Because arrests need to be made of the people that have put these technologies out there. This is a crime, will be shown to be a crime, because as far as I'm concerned, I make a number of different products that fit with Department of Transport, UNECE 2205 standards, etc. And we cannot breach those standards, otherwise those products cannot be sold. To sell them or even introduce them into a market would be an offence, and you could end up in prison over it. So how we got ourselves into a position where these devices are being sold? And it's not just that. These are handheld devices that operate with a 3.5 electron volt battery. We've got smart meters that are emitting significantly higher amount of radiation in people's homes as we speak. Now, obviously one smart meter is going to pose a significant risk to the people in that building. What about when you've got a multiple occupancy with, 100, 200 or 300 of these emitters where they're emitting? P&G had one smart meter. They say that it reports on the electricity usage once or 2 or 3 times a day. When they were independently tested, they were emitting 160,000 times a day. Why would any energy company want to have that type of data on anybody in a particular home? That tells me that that equipment, that smart meter, hasn't been put there just to spy. It's been put there to harm. Like I said before, the definition of something that's a weapon is something that's designed to cause bodily harm.
We have some questions that have been submitted by viewers ahead of this interview. If we could get a couple of those. We have a few minutes left. Donnie Gaber asks, does 5G have the hardware capacity to change frequencies to known harmful or weaponized frequencies? In other words, if we're being told, don't worry, the emitters that are being put in your neighborhood are low frequency and low power, do they have the switching capability within them to be switched by the operators?
Absolutely, yes. Well, we found, I know one guy who tested this equipment, and what happens, if they know there's a test going to be carried out, then what they can do, they can turn down the power output. I spoke to a technologist who works for one of the big telecoms companies, and what he said to me, he said, you must get this stopped. Now, these are the guys that are fitting it. He said, Mark, you've got to get this stopped. And I said, well, what do you mean? You guys are fitting this technology. He said, no, but we're in a really precarious position here. But he told me, give me information. He said, they're actually on 20% of that capacity. So that currently, he said, if they wanted to totally blanket radiate everybody, 20%, he said, and they've actually got the capacity to go up to 100%. And that's why a lot of these larger transmitters have got cooler boxes to cool down the radiators. That's the large transmitters, because what they don't want them doing is bursting into flames. So this is absolutely, the guy's correct. Yes, they do have the capacity, but 5G is about spectrum dominance. So you've got the LEDs, which are in the terahertz range. You've got the proposed millimeter wave range, so the 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. You've then got the weapons systems, which are more potent, by the way, in the sub-gigahertz to the 10 gigahertz range. So what they're after, they want full spectrum dominance. Now, if I get full spectrum dominance in any particular area, I can pull what's called an EMP, electromagnetic pulse radiation weapon, where I can take your building down, because I can get all the molecular structures to vibrate at a certain frequency. I can then fire the overburden energy and I can take the house down. In fact, you know, we've seen some of that. I think you guys saw 9/11. That was quite an interesting bit of video where most of the buildings just floated away down Manhattan as dust. Well, that told me that not only were munitions used in the takedown of those buildings, but some type of EMP was used to break down the concrete structure as it was actually, you know, dusting away across the city.
Another question from Mona Lisa is, what can I do to protect myself and my family from any of the harmful effects of 5G?
Well, you know, there are all mitigating technologies. There's Earth ones. There's lots of different cancellation wave technologies that will not protect you from 5G. 5G is here to kill. The only way to actually stop it is to actually cut the power that's been sent to it and stop the criminals who are deploying it. That's the advice I give to everybody. I mean, I had a guy at Christmas, he said to me, I'm going to build a Faraday cage, I'm going to live in that. So I said, so you're going to imprison yourself because criminals want to deploy harmful technology in near proximity to your home. You want to imprison yourself. I says, well, that's really a bit of a defeatist sort of attitude. You'd probably be better ending up in a prison trying to protect yourself and being a hero in protecting your countrymen, women and children. That's what I do. I've been arrested on a number of occasions. Unfortunately for the cabal, the judicial system, while it may be slightly corrupted, it's not fully corrupted for any judge to allow genocide to be perpetrated on the people of our countries. And that's what I tell everybody. Get them into court. Let's see the judicial system pull this thing to pieces. Let's get the information out where shareholders who are on the hook for this run for the hills. Speak to your brokers, speak to your pension fund managers and tell them not to invest in this type of technology. That's from autonomous electric vehicles. Electric vehicles are scam, all part of the kill grid, the LED streetlights, but also hold your local authorities to account, your local councils who are deploying this equipment on top of you without the obligatory health or environmental impact analysis. Like I said, we know that you don't have any. Not only that, it is uninsurable. So consequently, this then leaves the executives in these organizations at threat because they're deploying equipment that's uninsurable. Most public bodies have to carry public liability insurance. They don't have any in relation to this technology because it's uninsurable. And it's uninsurable for a reason, because it's here to harm.
We have one more question from Sal, who asks, what evidence can we use from your court case to hold other councils accountable, and where can we get it?
The court case was on the public records. The public records are there. We've got the court dates, numbers. If people want to contact me, it's through Save Us Now. Save Us Now is a political movement we set up so that people can get involved. They've got some symbology around that, and also it gives people a focus. What people have to remember, we started this fight back in 2016. I've never been an activist in my life. I'm a businessman, I'm a technologist, and I was just busy away until I had neighbours knocking on the door, nosebleeds, children having nosebleeds. And when I started to investigate, I couldn't believe what I discovered. And I actually had some technology. In fact, I can get one of the transmitters. I'll just get one in a minute, and I'll show people. One of the transmitters was given to me by a council worker by a number of whistleblowers. And this piece of technology showed to me that what this actually was, as a matter of fact, not a antenna. Keeps that bit as well. Right. This piece here, that looks like a dipole antenna, all right? Dipole antenna radiates in all directions. Consequently, that would have to be pretty powerful to be a danger to a person, especially fitted to a streetlight. It would kill in the near field a bird, anything perched on the top of the lights. However, I got my hands on this, right? That's what's called a high gain antenna, right? It's for beamforming. And what it does, it connects with all the other devices, all the other elements. This is one element in a vast array. We've got 31,875 of these in a small borough of Gateshead. That antenna is radar. It's a scanner. All right, but you see that little teardrop on the end? It's not very good. You cannot see it very well here. You need it to be lit up. You'll see it's like a printed, it looks like a lens. It is a lens. It's called a dielectric lens. That allows me to focus the radiation. Also, that little metal box there is a 450 volt capacitor. Now, why would an antenna board need capacity 450 volts on a board? Well, it doesn't. It only needs it if somebody's going to use it as a weapon against the people. Now, currently in Gateshead, we have a massive cover-up. The council are removing these at pace in a multi-million-pound cover-up because I've just won a case against Northumbria Police. Northumbria Police have been contacted by several people in the community. They've got complaints of nosebleeds, an assault, skin problems, breathing problems, all the things associated with the overburden of microwave radiation poisoning. They've had these details. They've contacted me for verification because I am an expert in this field, as was attested by a judge. The council said I was a conspiracy theorist. The judge didn't agree with that, and he said I was very expert. So I'm an expert in this particular field, in this type of equipment. And the police contacted me. Once they found out that the complaints they were receiving were valid, they then shut in the investigation. I've recently just had an appeal upheld against the police by the Independent Police Complaints Authority in the United Kingdom, so that Northumbria Police will and are obliged to investigate this crime. As they investigate this crime, it'll be shown to be correct that this was a genocidal plot to kill en masse large numbers of my countrymen, women and children. Now, that's going to be a pretty tall order for the police to investigate, but as more people wake up to this crime, what we're going to start to see, right, is the police having to act. Otherwise, we will have to act in law to stop the criminals from deploying this equipment against us. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. Even in our locality, the local authority opened up its own funeral directors to capitalise, the first in the world to capitalise on the increase in deaths, because the normal funeral directors can't keep up with the significant increase in death rates from this technological deployment. Now that is unbelievable. After the court case where they tried to gag me, they did gag me, they got an interim order. I couldn't speak about 5G for 3 months until we got into court where the judge lifted the gag. He said the public had a right to know about this baby killing technology. They lifted that gag, and obviously he told me to carry on with the campaign. He basically was quite congratulating to me, and he said carry on the campaign. He warned Gateshead Council to debate this risk. We've had no debate since. But what I did, I contacted the council to ask them under a Freedom of Information request, as they're obliged in law to reply, I want the business plan for the funeral directors, because if I can prove prior knowledge of this crime and the increase in deaths that they expected, then that would be murder. It wouldn't be manslaughter. They have refused to supply me, and breaking the law once again, have refused to supply me with that business plan for their funeral directors, and they've just recently opened up further capacity, a super morgue next to the crematorium in Gateshead. Now, one of the things a lot of people don't know, in Gateshead there's an area, Ben Sham. Ben Sham is an area in Gateshead. It's the largest Orthodox Jew population outside of Israel, which I don't believe is by coincidence. The fact that Gateshead is, as a matter of fact, one of the experimental test beds for this technology, because believe it or not, Israel also have this technology. I've heard a lot of people say the Israelis were developing it, they don't have it. But I can tell you, Iron Dome deployment is, a matter of fact, 5G. But there's people in Israel who are sending me pictures of technologies that have been deployed in their streetlights, which I've identified as 5G equipment.
We have, this is a serious point you raised about the gag order that you were subject to for 3 months where you couldn't talk about this. Folks, you understand that we are under a similar risk here by bringing this topic forward in the way that we are. And we don't want to be subject to having to stop this mission, but together we are unstoppable. And you can support us in being completely independent from the corporate withdrawal that we could be subject to by going to patreon.com/reluctantpreppers or paypal.me/reluctantpreppers. Mark Steele is the weapons system expert and 5G activist that we are talking with. Mark, if people want to find out more how they can get involved, how they can get educated, where can they go?
We have a website. It's saveusnow.org.uk. People can send there for any information. We have a YouTube channel. We belong to, because Google shut down my YouTube channel. They shut down the political movements YouTube channel. So what I did, I used the cousin's YouTube channel. It's Anthony Steele. So they can watch the videos, the Anthony Steele videos. Basically, I do the videos, pass them over to him, and it helps me from being arrested. If I put anything in there that obviously the council don't like the look of, it just makes it a little bit more difficult for the council, because like I said, I've been in court several times now where the council have fabricated evidence against me. They've brought false witness testimony. They've actually entered false documents into the court, and we have that now on the public record. So unfortunately for them, we're now going on the offensive, and we have a crowd justice fund. The resource going into that, it's called Let Justice Be Done Though the Heavens Fall. That's a crowd justice fund, and that goes directly into the barrister's escrow account, because legal action is absolutely the most important thing here, so we can hold these characters to account. So if anybody wants to help out with that, if they want to get involved, but if they need any technical advice in relation to this crime that's been perpetrated against us, we're the guys to come to, because obviously we've been there, we've seen it, we've got the technical evidence, we've had some results in the courts. Consequently, what people must certainly need to be aware of is the misinformation and the disinformation by the industry. So taking them into court, you have to be technically competent with the evidence to make sure that, when we get into court, we win these cases and we don't go along with the industry narrative. There was a solicitor in London keep talking about millimetre waves. I don't see any technology out there that's delivering millimetre waves yet. So consequently, that would be like taking somebody into a court case and saying they've run into me with a red car. You get into court, the judge looks at all the technical details and finds out that the person you're trying to take to court only has ever driven a blue car. Well, your case is going to fall to pieces. So we've got to be mindful about that. We've also got to be mindful of state actors who want to get involved in organisations trying to disempower people. One of the disempowering narratives is the satellites. Satellites are mirrors in the sky, mostly. All right, the amount of satellites that are putting up there, they require a ground-based weapon to be potent. All right, they need to be in the sub-gigahertz range, because obviously, like I said before, millimetre waveforms don't travel very far in air. It'd be absolutely useless to send millimetre waves to a satellite. We probably wouldn't even get there, never mind get back. So that whole narrative, the millimetre waves, the satellite thing. So anybody who are pushing that, be mindful that either ignorant, don't understand what 5G is, and actually don't understand the weapons systems deployment.
We've been speaking with Mark Steele. He is a weapons system expert and a 5G safety activist. Mark, thanks for joining us this first time on Reluctant Preppers and Finance and Liberty. And folks, this is extremely important. Please share this video, as I'm sure you've if you're listening this far into it, you're extremely concerned, as I am, and help to support us so that we can continue to bring these cutting-edge messages forward for all of our sakes so we can be aware and prepared. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, and thanks for giving me the platform. I really appreciate it.
They say the stock market crashed today.
Yeah, I heard that.
Sounds like people's retirement accounts and savings accounts are going to get bailed into the banks.
Yeah.
Looks like pension plans and Social Security are going to get suspended too.
I know.
Sure, I'm glad we decided to put our money into gold and silver instead.
Me too.
Get your gold and silver and support this channel at goldsilver.com/AFF=RP. Reluctant Preppers provides educational awareness and commentary only. Opinions expressed do not constitute personalized financial advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and seek qualified personal financial consultation before making investment decisions.